Stand here.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to everyone. فطبعا قبل البداية اسمحوا لي أن أشكر إلى أصحاب اللجنة لدعوتي إلى هذا المؤتمر، وأيضا أشكر إلى رئيس الجلسة على هذه الفرصة المناسبة. فتسهيلا لي سأقدم هذه النقاط باللغة الإنجليزية. Basically, my presentation will be on the strengthening of the ecosystems, particularly in Indonesia. I met the Industry Revolution 4.0. Before I begin with what's happening actually in this country, I would like to share with you on the recent global digital economy, which is expected to grow very fast by 2020 to reach around $4.3 trillion. And if you can compare with the global Muslim market digital, it is expected to reach around almost 300 billion US dollar. And if you look at the Indonesian case, it is recorded very robust growth of financial industry, particularly in the fintech industry. If you look at the data released by the authority of Indonesia, it is shown that in the last year, 2018, more than 300 fintech players or industries operating in this country. And of course, when we talk about the evolution of the fintechs, starting from 1.0 until 4.0, almost every stages of this evolution has been regulated by the Indonesian authorities. We call it as financial service authorities. And interestingly that this authority body defines fintechs, particularly for before 4.0, it is something provided by the formal financial institution, and also for 3.0, it is something provided by the startup company. So there has been a change in terms of definition by the what we call financial authority with regard to the evolution of the financial industry. Now, what is actually the impact to the business and also to the society when we look at this Revolution 4.0? The impact, of course, number one, to Indonesian community, I mean the business community, is the efficiency, where there are many methods, particularly for the value chains, and especially Indonesia currently, they have a new master plan for the halal industry, and luckily, Zico was appointed as the consultant for the government to prepare this master plan, focusing on the what they call creating what we call as marketplace. So there will be new marketplace, Sharia marketplace or Islamic marketplace in Indonesia, competing with the existing marketplace. And the other impact is, of course, disruption in some what you call as industry for every sharing economy. Let's say we have two very big startup companies operating right now in Indonesia. We call like Grab, and the other one is Gojek. But recently, I think a few days ago, Gojek now has become not anymore unicorn, but now become decacorn. So this is, I think, the first ever of its kind in the Southeast Asia. And then the impact to the society, it's very easy to get information and also comparing about some products provided by the startup companies. And of course, the challenging here is in terms of the shifting of the employment, because, it is a very fast adaptation and also lacking of privacy. So that is why the government release what they call rules pertaining to this what they call environments. For example, hate speech act as a regulation in Indonesia. Now, with regard to this potential, Indonesia is I can call a paradise for technology revolution. Why? Because today, Indonesia considered as the 16th biggest economy, the 8th biggest of a GDP. And then now Indonesia will become the world's 7th largest economy compared to other countries. And amazingly, half the population of Indonesia, they are internet users. And this will lead to the what they call a comparison with other countries like China and India, because Indonesia becomes the innovator of the technology or what they call informations in the country. So there is another reason Indonesia is having what we call as a demographic bonus by year 2030. Why? Because more than 45 million populations will be categorized as middle until up consuming class. And then so 135 million people categorized as what they call up or higher than middle class of economy. There are some reasons why Indonesia categorized as the potential market for fintech. Number one, like I said before, because it has large populations, and then very fast growth of middle class population. And Indonesia also very technology savvy. Like I said before, where more than half of the population they are the internet users, and also more than 70% of the what they call web pages view from mobile phone, because I think more than half of the population or everyone, they possess a mobile phone. And another interesting fact is that most of the Indonesians are unbanked. 60% of the population of Indonesia, they don't have a bank account. And only 27% they save, the money in a bank, and only 9% they use card credit for payment. In terms of regulatory gap, the formal credit heavily regulated with high market barriers, and fintech until December last 2016 was unregulated with very low entry barriers. Well, if you talk about the ecosystems of distribution among the Indonesian financial institutions, most of the ecosystem dominated by the payment system, more than 30%, and then followed by the lendings, around 70%, and then followed by the crowdfunding. So if we connect with the financial institution, usually the banks in Indonesia, they have payments and money transfer using kind of technology and digital revolutions, saving and also investment, and even insurance. And recently the government has released what we call as Wakaf Sukuk Link. And of course, by having this kind of transformation of digital revolution, there are some opportunities and also risks. Number one, they will improve efficiency, but of course the risk is the there are some uncertain regulations. For example, bitcoins. Okay, it is prohibited the practice and operation in Indonesia or any form of virtual currency. And also, the other opportunity is the access, increase the access of the users. But there is also what we are facing today is cyber insecurity. And then the other opportunity is very close linkage to the real estate sector, and this is what the government doing, where, like I said before, the government will release marketplace, Sharia marketplace, because nowadays there are many marketplace, conventional like GDID, like many things, local companies or maybe foreign companies. So there is here will be consumer exploitations in Indonesia. And that is why there is another regulations released by the government, what we call as a consumer protection for this kind of industry, in the middle of revolutions. And today also we can witness some banks, whether it is foreign banks or even local banks, whether it is conventional or Sharia banks operating in Indonesia. They have adopted this kind of digital economy from what you call mobile banking and then internet banking and so on and so on. And in fact, there is a shift of business platform, where major banks, they have deposited and they have invested huge funds for this kind of revolution. Okay, so what is actually the better ecosystem for Indonesia? There are some requirements and conditions pertaining to this one. Number one, of course, the regulation. If you compare with countries like China, UK, and USA, they have a comprehensive regulation principle to support MPL or marketplace lending to ensure a prudent business. They have a regulation starting from what you call deposit insurance, and then client funding segregations, disclosure to investors, even including the tax promotion and so on. The second ecosystem that we build is the innovation culture. How the Indonesian community build this innovation culture, starting from the academic, and then good motivation and also literacy to all the stakeholders, having strong teamwork and also ideas. And then the third one is what we call as digital penetration. As we know that the population in Indonesia, more than half, around 65%, digital banking penetration will be double in the next 5 years. So this means this penetration will boost the national economy, particularly for the consumption of these services. With regard to the internet users also, it is recorded that more than 52% in the last year, there was a frequency of digital channels using this kind of what they call industry. And then digital banking in terms of the sale and also marketing will be more than 7% to grow expected, thank you, in the next year. And then, of course, if you look at the potential of millennial generations, it's a very huge potential for the startup companies, particularly in order to create a better ecosystem, in order to integrate with the commercial financial institution. Because, like I said before, even every single of individual in Indonesia, they have a mobile phone. So everything will be started from mobile phone. The other one is, I think this one is the most important one and critical issue in Indonesia is the data protection. So when we say about the data protection, managing personal data becomes a very key task for organizations. It is what we call process and records, and then some mobile workplace concept, synchronizations of gadgets and data and so on. So PDP or personal data protection is made as a critical threat issue, and even the government now is preparing the regulation on data protection, including a potential trade barrier in the event of trans-border data transfer. And then general data protection regulations is setting new global PDP benchmark, and now the government also is working. And also all life cycle of data management now embedded in a comprehensive and a cross-sectoral government within the financial organizations, and particularly for commercial financial institutions. And the last one is the data management policies, of course, need to be up to date and also comprehensive. When we talk about the what we call commercial financial institution, there must be always risk in this sector. Of course, there are two risks: known risk, and the other one is unknown risk. The unknown risk is the development of new activities outside Indonesia, and this is a very risky whenever the first time of Bitcoin, for example, and other form of virtual currency operating in Indonesia. This is considered as unknown risk. And then the known risk, for example, integrity risk, like data security, cyber risk, and so on. And then the most critical risk one is macro-prudential risk, where the central bank is focusing now on this kind of policy. And then, of course, financial risk, for example, lower profitability. This will, can give rise to solvency problems, including liquidity risk. And the last ecosystem that built in Indonesia is, of course, collaborations between the what we call commercial financial institutions and other stakeholders. And of course, it is considered as outreach when there is collaborations. There must be a support from the government, teamwork from every sectors, and of course, good communications, trust, right? And of course, whenever we say about the outreach, that means it is the targeting to achieve beyond what is expected. For example, how to collect the data, and also other advertisement online, for example. And this is the ecosystem that we are building now in order to achieve a better ecosystem in middle of Industry Revolution 4.0. By this, I end my presentation. Thank you very much.
شكرا للأستاذ محمد رشدي على عرضه، والأستاذ أحمد أفندي.